The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Hey, what is up, YouTube fam? It's Dupree, aka Darth Hater, here with some brand new fresh Star Wars news for you. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and also check out my last video because that greatly helps out the channel. So let's get into it. So this one's about Rogue One and a lot of the changes it went through. I'm gonna read from this interview and then we're gonna talk about it. So, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, may be one of the best Star Wars films in recent memory, but its acclaim is largely due to emergency changes made by the Gilroys, the creative geniuses behind Andor on Disney+. While Disney's Star Wars sequel trilogy has yet to improve with age in the eyes, the same can't be said for 2016's Rogue One, which has recently been thriving among fans, which in turn got its own spin-off series titled Andor on Disney+, which was created and shepherded by Rogue One's own Tony Gilroy. He went on to say, "Star Wars has always been a family-centric story, and the same applies to this production, as Tony and his brother John were famously brought on to recut Gareth Edwards' version of the 2016 feature. Now amidst Andor's Season 1 run on Disney+, John Gilroy has provided new insight into the film's famous reshoots and how the two brothers salvaged the struggling film." So John Gilroy was asked by The Playlist as to whether he and his brother Tony Gilroy were changing things during Rogue One's reshoots or just making adjustments. John confessed they were really changing things. "I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about that, but it was really changing things and using all the tricks in your bag as an editor to make things work. However, you need to make them work, Gilroy went on to explain the extent of those changes, revealing that they made a new story and that it was quite a different story from its original movie. He went to say, "It was actually, the basic plan was very simple. They had the movie they had, and they called Tony in, and Tony huddled for a while with another editor who was already on, Colin Gaudy, and used a lot of things that he had discovered when we were working together, and just basically made a new story. It was quite a different story, and then convinced Disney to invest in that story, which was a sizable investment in the time and the money, and then it was just realizing what that was. So it's a new plan. You're not going in and experimenting. No, we had a new blueprint." As to how John Gilroy approached tackling a new story when there was already original, the editor claimed, "I didn't pay much attention to the other film, how a lot of rewriting happened in the cutting room floor." He went to say, "So we went in and just did what we did, and I had a blueprint. I didn't pay much attention to the other film, except what we were doing sometimes is we're taking a scene and we're totally retasking things in that scene. I work with a microphone right next to my Avid, and if I get into a pickle with something, I just mock a line in a bridge line or whatever I have to do, and then later on it's codified. And then we get the actor to do it. There's a lot of rewriting that can go on the cutting room if you need to. It's not something you want to do for the first thing. If everybody wrote really great scripts and executed them perfectly, there'd be no need for that. But things happen, and that's another elevated level to challenge the trajectory of a film or a story. And that's something that people do. While large-scale reshoots for tentpole films are anything but unusual, the editor noted you can't do it in television, a medium that he and Tony are currently working on for Andor, and that can be a good thing." He also said, "When you start to experiment, which is what a lot of big features do, a lot of big features, they go in and they have a weak third act, and then they shoot it, and then they see what they have, and then they go back for all these gigantic reshoots, and yeah, that's a very expensive way of working. You can't do that in television. I think the artistry breeds a certain kind of genius because it sort of it focuses you on what you have to do." In a 2018 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Tony Gilroy referred to the original film's confusion and mess, but also how its problem was very, very simple to solve. If you look at Rogue One, all the difficulty with Rogue One, all its confusions of it, and all of the mess, and in the end, when you get in there, it's actually very, very simple to solve because you sort of go, this is a movie where folks just look, everyone is going to die, so it's a movie about sacrifice. I came in after the director's cut. I have a screenplay credit. I have never been interested in Star Wars ever, so I had no reference for it whatsoever. I was unafraid about that. This is surprising given how Rogue One is the darling of the Disney Star Wars era in terms of film, especially in the contrast to The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, which were both directed by self-proclaimed Star Wars fans. Gilroy described how the movie was in such terrible trouble, but that only improvements can be made. He went to say, and then they were in such a swamp, they were in such terrible trouble that you could do was improve their position. Just what the original director's cut of Rogue One looked like is unknown and probably will always be. What fans do know, apart from the details John Gilroy just shared, is that multiple crawls and titles were originally considered for Rogue One. The scrap cut also saw K2SO being the only casualty, Vader going on a Scarif beach rampage, and Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso entering a full-fledged romance. While it would have been interesting to see these ideas explored on screen, the fact that the Gilroys came aboard Rogue One post-director's cut and executed a new vision that fans love is a bit of a miracle. In retrospect, it's no wonder that Lucasfilm embraced their vision for Andor, which, like Rogue One, is also succeeding with fans and critics. Given how expertly the two salvaged the 2016 film and have crafted a Disney Plus series, it will be fascinating to see how Andor's 2-season run will lead directly into the opening of Rogue One, and how the two will complement one another. Wow, okay, that's very interesting. I mean, I knew that there were a lot of reshoots going in, but I didn't know that both of the brothers had gone in and worked on the film. I just thought it was just Tony just in there, you know, coming in after Gareth Edwards. But from what I remember about all this, when the movie came out and people were talking about there was like a lot of rewrites, I remember saying that they added obviously the Vader scene at the very end of the movie because that wasn't in there. And like they just said in this, Vader goes to the beach and then Cassian and Jyn escape in an escape pod. It was a very different script. I mean, a lot of the same things, obviously the same idea. They're having to steal the Death Star plans was the main objective of the film, but there are a lot of differences also. But this is interesting to see the whole like, okay, possible romantic relationship between Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor, because it's kind of alluded to at the end of the film also when after Cassian and Jyn, like, you know, send off the Death Star plans, they're looking into each other's eyes all lovingly, and then obviously the hug on the beach before they're both killed in that explosion by the Death Star. Yeah, I'm very curious about like the director's cut or the original cut of this film. Like, I know there were so many scenes and things cut out. I actually talked to a crew person who worked on the film, and he was telling me behind the scenes that there were a lot of, I actually talked to a friend who worked on the film and specifically worked in most of the Darth Vader scenes and things of that nature. So he would tell me that there were so many more scenes that were cut out from the film with Darth Vader. Like, Tarkin and Vader had a bigger role, like a lot bigger role in this, So like I said, I always wonder what that is going to be. Well, who knows? We might get that whole story later down the line, but you know, only time will tell. Let me know what you guys thought about this interview about the reshoots of Rogue One. Do you think the film is good as is? Do you think it probably could have, like, another version of this film probably would have been better? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell to get notifications for all my latest videos. That would be great. Anyway, guys, take care. See you in the next one. May the force be with you. Bye.